Hello everyone. Today I'm going to speak about KPIs in software development department. You've probably come across a lot of discussions and articles about measuring and tracking KPI in software development teams, and I will skip this theoretical part. Instead, I want to show you our first-hand experiences, the good, the bad, and the challenges that we faced during this big journey. By the way, how many developers are here? Please raise your hands. Okay, cool. Everyone else are managers, right? Before we switch to the main topic, I would like to share a couple of words about myself. By the way, does somebody knows this guy on the second photo in the center? Anybody? No, really? So the audience is absolutely not old school like me. Okay, this is Larry Wall, a creator of Perl programming language. So my name is Sergey Zubovich. I work as a CTO at Bamboo Agile. I have a lot of experience in leading IT teams. Currently, I oversee around 6 distributed teams and or around 50 people. Even though back then we were just 5 of us. What I do, I build, motivate, and create high-performing software development teams. This is my key objective. And I have backend development background, and yes, I spend a lot of years in Perl environment. I still do some coding from time to time, mostly in Google Cloud environment and Google Apps script. So I worked under KPIs long time ago. Back then, they were measured under very subjective indicators, such as number of tasks completed on previous months, having no complaints from your colleagues during previous months, and other funny stuff. So what are KPIs? Sometimes it just looks like a corporate bullshit or another manager's invention on how to improve performance, because it is very modern and important to improve performance. But actually, I like a description where KPIs are compared to a map, helping us to define where we are since we get started. Usually, it depends on the specific set of KPIs and how they're actually used. And you've probably heard a lot of conclusions about how KPIs should be aligned with the organizational goals, and a lot of researches about 10 common mistakes of using KPIs. But I'm not going to talk about this theoretical part, as I already said. I want to show you our experience that we had during a long period of time. Also, there are a lot of funny stories. I've been told a story that in one big corporation, it was a telecom company, they had a performance KPI, which was hacked by the developers team by hard coding the code, sleep for 3 seconds in random parts of code. Then, gradually removing it, they just reported performance growth and improvements. So why do we actually need KPIs? There could be a lot of reasons. You can see them, for example, on this slide. But to be honest, it was my boss who first asked me, why don't we use KPIs to track employees' performance? As I mentioned, we didn't have any specific metrics in place. Everything was too subjective. At that point, we conducted a research to gather best practices and to adjust them to our team. The main idea was to connect KPIs as metrics to employees' compensation levels. We were afraid a lot that people will not accept this approach at all, because this is a very sensitive topic, and people are always afraid of any changes, especially when these changes apply to their compensation levels. But it was really important to replace the old system because of its bias. I have to say that it wasn't so difficult at this stage because my department was just about 6 people. So we aimed to make personal KPIs aligned with organizational goals and to show people that it is not to infringe upon their rights, but to let them earn more. So how many companies use the KPIs as a compensation and reward system for software development teams? I wanted to show you some statistics here. It would be really good to show you some numbers and percentages based on competent researchers. But I didn't find anything relevant. There is no open data about how many companies use the KPIs, and moreover, on its correlation with the compensation levels. So here you can see just very typical list of KPIs. I'm pretty sure that most of you are familiar with them, and there is no reason to dive into the details. Just one interesting thing I noticed when I was preparing this presentation is technical debt management. Today we even had a talk about technical debt. I guess it was at Blue Stage. So this is not a typical KPI, but I noticed that its usage significantly increased during the last years. It is used as a KPI for tracking, as a scope for sales and proposals, as a variable to control new features development. Also, it can benefit your negotiation. So I would personally advise to use this KPI and to track them in your projects and use it when you need to negotiate, for example, about new features development. As an example, I can tell you a story. On one of the projects, it was a cross-platform presentation software. We were constantly adding something to a backlog. This led us to a huge backlog, which grew from sprint to sprint. This was because the client was too focused on new features development rather than technical debt management and stabilization. We explained a lot of times about the importance of alternating backlog tasks and new features development, but the client insisted. So at some point, we understood that the remaining budget wasn't sufficient to finish the project. Finally, this became an argument to our client. So we agreed to pause new features development and to focus on stabilizations and closing technical debt issues instead. This allowed our client to get a stable version and raise an investment for future development stages. So what was the result we implemented in our department? So this is the very first version, and it was based on 3 main indicators, such as efforts, quality, and innovation. Here you can see how it was implemented at a compensation level. We have 3 parts here: fixed, variable, and bonus part. And efforts and quality comprise variable part, and innovation is a bonus part. The numbers are just an example of how this can be implemented at a compensation level, because real numbers can vary from case to case. So efforts management was based on approach that as a team we need to have a statement of what need to be delivered and when. Usually we planned such activities in roadmaps and sprints. Here you can see an example of a roadmap we used to track whether we're on track or not. It looks quite messy, by the way. So the quality was tracked based on a very complex spreadsheets with a lot of coefficients and bug severities. And it was really difficult to provide clearly calculated picture based on this spreadsheet. So it was replaced by more specific metrics in future. I will talk a bit later. Innovation was a wrong indicator to track because it is almost impossible to track innovations. We just ended up with infinite list of innovations we never implement. And this is a real example of how your team can hack your KPIs, because everyone just invented an idea to get a bonus. As an example, I remember an idea to invent our own SMS protocol instead of SMTP. It was a big telecom project, but you can imagine useless efforts to imagine our own SMTP protocol. It's absolutely insane. And also, this innovation indicator is an example of individual metric that is not necessarily connected with the team goals. There are a lot of concern about how these metrics can work against each other. Somebody can be just focused on his personal metrics and absolutely forget about team goals. But what if they're the same? What if we set Scrum team goals equal to personal team goals, personal KPIs? So this was an evolution we implemented at the next iteration. So we based our approach on a project constraints such as schedule, budget, and quality. They are pretty standard and best of all represented by Venn diagram. Schedule means that we always want to make our project's results fast. Budget, we need to make it cheap. And the quality, of course, should be good. But having the same time project done well, fast, and cheap looks impossible. We should not choose between these 3 indicators, but we need to try to be as close to the image center as possible. And how to achieve this is absolutely another story. So the updated version of KPIs used our experience to synchronize personal goals with the team goals. Basically, everyone in a Scrum team has these two basic KPIs by default, sprint delivery and quality. It's not a punishment, but if something goes wrong, we need to highlight it. If something is going wrong in the sprint and wasn't delivered due to somebody's inefficiency or misunderstanding of a scope, we need to highlight it by the corresponding KPI. Quality is measured by different indicators, such as code quality based on pull requests feedback from other team members, code stability in different environment, architecture issues, and so on. Of course, it can also look biased, but we need to highlight it if something is going wrong based on these feedbacks. And as I already said, everyone in the Scrum team has two basic core KPIs by default. The third one is optional, and we started to track additional activities and motivate our team members to take these activities in the projects and in the company. With experience, people get involved in more and more projects, and with this bonus KPI, we motivate them, for example, to take something from their previous project without changing any goals in the main projects. This allows us to use resources efficiently and, for example, not to hire someone just for a project support. As a result, personal KPIs became better aligned with Scrum team KPIs. And besides, we found it really beneficial for each party to get bonus KPI earned. Of course, it would look too cool if I had not voiced the problems that arose. The first one is about job offers. You probably will not tell your potential candidate on a first job interview that you have a compensation system based on KPIs, but you will definitely need to describe it clearly in your job offer. Usually it requires additional meetings and explanations because this is somewhat unusual to candidates. In some cases, we start just with a flat rate, adding variables on top of it later. I can remember cases where our job offers were rejected just because of that reason. People were not inspired by the system and preferred more clear for them flat rate offers. You can see an example of job offer here. Probably you can expect just a single number instead of that. Another problem was about you will need to take monthly reviews of KPIs for each employee and to explain why they are highlighted like this. Probably this is not a problem if you are just 6 people in your department, but if you are 50 plus, you will definitely need a lot of automations configured for that purpose. So basically, our stack includes Google Forms, Google Spreadsheets, Google Apps scripts, and Fibery. Of course, there is also a manual review there. So the first step, there is a special Google form about KPIs, which is filled in by employees on their own. The important thing here is that they need to evaluate themselves. At this point, where mutual trust emerges, because anyway, this will be reviewed manually then. So the numbers from previous form gathered in KPI report spreadsheet. Then, of course, they manually reviewed. Then we have special salary KPI spreadsheet report, and the numbers are gathered automatically from previous report. We also use Fibery as the wiki pages and for KPI descriptions, and also there are vacations and sick leave modules in Fibery, and the data from Fibery automatically exported via Zapier automations to this spreadsheet. Then this report sent off to financial department. Google Apps script generate a payroll PDF file and send to employees. After that, final step, you need to be ready to answer the questions if they are. Of course, there are some other cases that we implemented in our company and department. For example, for project managers and team leads, we track these indicators. Client feedback is described by not having any negative feedback from the clients on the projects they lead. We understand that this can be also easily hacked by our clients, but hopefully we'll not tell them about that. We have at least monthly review calls to gather these feedbacks. Team health means that project managers need to track burnouts and negative feedbacks from the team members. This is very interesting point because it was gained due to one of negative experiences on the project we had. One of the team members was always complaining about the project, about the client, about the scope, about the features. So like everything was a crap for him. We were just doing nothing with that, and it appeared that he got followers in the team. There were 3 people saying, yes, everything is just a crap. It is very important to provide right signaling to resource manager in such cases. Probably, if something is going wrong in the project based on this negative feedback, we need to fix it. But we definitely need to remove toxic people from the team, because it is very bad experience and very contagious. So product understanding is described by tracking that everybody understands his scope of work and there is no rebuilds the scope from scratch. Basically, it is tracked by other team members' indicators such as sprint delivery and quality. Of course, we can't apply these templates to everybody in a company. For example, like salespeople, marketing people, they have absolutely different indicators to track. Also, we can't apply it, for example, for employees working on outstaffing projects. In that case, they work like employees of our client. And we can't objectively measure any metric apart from gathering regular feedback. So that's basically it. Thank you for attention. I think we have time for some questions.
Absolutely. So thanks. Already question from the first row. Awesome.
Right. So one of the issues I have with this approach is that, yes, you did mention that salespeople, marketing people, some sort of areas may need different approach. However, I feel that treating developers as one amorphous mass is even worse in a way. I mean, every developer is an individual. They have their own specific approach, how to work, what are their best qualities, and so on. For example, a developer who doesn't really commit much code, doesn't do perhaps even code reviews that much, could be way more beneficial for a team due to their, let's say, communication skills, due to their knowledge of the product, giving out some verbal advice to some people, doing some pair programming. This is way more than any such metric could measure. What are your thoughts about this?
Well, as I said, it's not like for cheating developers. As I said, everybody has it by default, core KPIs. And yeah, we understand that everybody can be different and we apply different metrics for different people. If somebody is, for example, for software architects, it's different. It's mostly for the developers. And it is not like counting the amount of code reviews and so on. It is like very basic metrics like sprint delivery and quality. So this is like a basic agreement that Scrum team agreed to have it in 2 weeks, and we need to track it. This is only by this, and it is really helpful because like the people, they are trying to get used to this approach, and they understand that it's like something like social responsibility. So like everybody is responsible to deliver. So they have this contract to deliver it, and they understand that if this should not be delivered, it will affect not just me, but everybody.
Thanks for a very good question. Thanks for a very good reply. I think as an employer brand specialist, then you actually said that when a person joins your company, you will have a dedicated time to explain this, how you work in Bamboo Agile. And I think that when a person joins a company and they know what they sign up for, then companies have different approaches. And probably that person has agreed to work in that way. Of course, they will learn later on how it works in the company culture, but this is the way Bamboo Agile does it.
Yeah, sure. As I said, sometimes we start just with a flat rate, very understandable for everybody. And then we can show, okay, you have a couple of projects, we have a bonuses. Do you want a bonuses? Let's try.
Awesome. So, as said, when introducing Sergey, then key performance indicators are a topic in every organization, in every culture, where we can have a lot of conversations around them. Thank you for introducing Bamboo Agile approach, how you do it. If anyone wants to catch up with Sergey, I know Sergey will be staying with us here today, and also you can meet him later in the evening. So thank you very much, and let's give an applause to Sergey.
Yeah.